I'm not going to take anything serious now anymore. I've done all that. So I've got the drugs I want to take.
Just get yourself comfy, because anything that's not, anything you don't like or we don't like, we can cut it out, don't worry.
Yeah. So you'll have to prompt me from where you want me to start then. Because my memory's quite good, Linda. You'd be surprised.
Right.
Down to being at convalescence and everything like that with our Paul.
Convalescence?
What used to happen, talking very, very early 60s. So I would have been perhaps 7, Paul 5. This place called Conway.
Oh, yeah.
And if you come from an unprivileged background, that's where you could go for 6 weeks. So what happened? Here's Paul's luck. The week before we're supposed to go home, we've gone to the seaside. So what happens? He gets stung by a jellyfish, so that's bad enough. Okay, on the way from getting stung, a crab bites him. Shouldn't laugh.
I know, but it's just falling.
Yeah, and so I got home 2 weeks earlier than him because he had to keep him there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? To make sure he was all right. But we was brought up in, originally, we lived in rooms, and Auntie June lived in the same house as us. It was, remember Mr. Finney?
Yeah, yeah.
It was in Mr. Finney's house.
Yeah.
Then what happened, we had my mum had a friend called Dixie. Paul's probably mentioned this to you.
Oh yeah.
So we went to live at Auntie Dixie's, and then a house came available on Percy Street. It was just on the corner to Dixie's. Massive house, beautiful house, cellar, attic and all that. Was there for about 18 months, 2 years. And then compulsory purchase came. So what happened then, we got shifted to Miles Platting. So we'd kind of gone from, say, an area where the word nigger, coon, wog, half-chat, you just didn't hear none of that. And, bear in mind, the little kids. So the very first school we went to, St. Mark's, what they used to do with you if you wasn't sort of paying attention or being unruly in any way, you'd get strapped. So consequently, me and Paul were getting strapped. So one day, that's it, had enough. Legged it home to my mum's, and she changed our schools. We went to Nelson Street then, which I found was better. For our Paul, he just found it more difficult for me. We're just different characters. Paul was confrontational, where I was sort of like, I'd befriend the enemy, so to speak. That was my way of dealing with it. But Paul's, it was just troublesome times for us, especially with the problems, at home with my mum, and my mum dealing with her problems as well. And as I say, that what happened in them years, some things I don't mind being put on cameras, but there's other parts that, if I speak to you in confidence, is that it was hard for all the kids, not just Paul, for me being the eldest, that when your mother's got to do things in order that you just eat and live and have clothing, and it was hard, and, she always fell in love with the wrong type of man, We've had stepfathers who used to beat us. We've had one stepfather who was like a heroin addict. So we're talking about a long, long time ago, early 60s, which was, people have not heard of heroin.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But
no, that is strange.
Yeah. But it was my teenage years in Miles Platting and Coats. For me, it was easy because I've always loved music. So via the music, you make friends swapping records. I loved American comics. I collected stamps. And I was just into reading. I like to read books of anything, doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's information. Paul was a great footballer, should have made the grade. What went wrong, I don't know, whether it was a combination of, you've got this gifted young boy at football, but it's about attitude. And I think in them days, they probably just did look at him and thought, well, this little black fucker, you're going nowhere. And I think that ended him, if you know what I mean, because of his character. He never sort of got the acclaim that he felt that he deserved, and I don't think he did, in all honesty. But that was then. There was other guys.
You don't think he got the acclaim?
No, because he could have done something with his life, to be honest.
Yeah.
Sorry for getting this.
No, don't be that.
So from there, what happened is that from Nelson Street then, I could have gone to grammar school, but we decided the cost it was going to be and all that, it would be better if I just went to a secondary modern school. So we ended up going to the nearest one, which was Holland Street. Now, some kids, because I'm on one of the sites on Facebook, they sing its praises. For me, it was just, again, it was hell. Being the eldest, not really being an aggressive young kid, constantly getting intimidated, as I told you. My method, who's the cock of the school, he's my pal now.
Yeah.
That's me. That's Phil. That's how he lives his life. It's better to live and survive and change things. If you go to war with somebody and they kill you, then your voice is never going to get fucking heard, is it? Or get locked up, get nutted off. Could have done all them things, you know what I mean? But decided not to. Gets to Holland Street, again, the same thing. Corporal punishment, it's still sort of being used. My mum says, comes to the school, attacks the headmaster. That's me expelled out of there. Then got put in this lovely little school called St Anne's in Newton Heath, where if you showed interest in education, they'd be on you, they encouraged you.
Yeah.
I loved it, it was great, mixed school, you know, boys and girls. Again, got took over by the council, compulsory purchase. I ends up going then to Moston Brook. But by then I'm in my 3rd year, so the class was called 3T, 3 transfer. Could play football, so could Paul, because both went to the same school, secondary school at Moston Brook. Anyway, Paul, after I think 6-7 months, is the very first boy ever to get expelled from the school, attacked the teacher. With, you know, the cage where you used to put your pumps in?
Yeah.
Yeah, attacked him with that, so he got...
Was you there, Phil?
Yeah, I was actually there, but I was in the, you know, the school at the same time. But I was in a different class because Paul's about 18 months younger than me. Anyway, so I'm sort of left there by myself, and unfortunately, I think one of the problems we had there, again, it's how you handle things, isn't it? Our nickname, I was called Big Steak. Now, the reason it was called Big Steak, you know, it's white working class humour, isn't it? Well done.
Oh,
because of my skin. Yeah, and the teachers called me that. I know it sounds crazy now. No, that's very, very bad. But Paul was called Little Steak.
Wow.
So,
and are you the only black kids in the school?
There was us, and there's this other mixed race kid called Paul Ao. I don't ever remember what happened to him, but he was called Choco or something like that. We always had nicknames because you're in a predominantly white working class area.
Yeah. No, those really are white working class areas.
And they wasn't educated to the levels that white kids are now. You know, it's just not like that. You mean, you've got like young white lads and they speak more black than what I speak now. Yeah. Because the integration, it's happening, but it's slow. It's not like when I was as a kid in Miles Platin, and just trying to think of the families. You had the Jammers, the Moseses, the Durants, Cunninghams. Do you know Yogi Shine? Yeah. They was there as well, all their kids. And that was about it. The Silvers. And that was it.
And we're in Miles Platin, Heathway.
Yeah, Miles Platin, Stroke, Ankles. I mean, I'm still friends with some of the people from there, you know, like, because the white people that I encountered, there was some fuckers there as children. Yeah. But as men, no, it's a different scenario, you know, but I can't hate them. I can't hate them because I'm not going to hate someone who called me a nigger when I was 10. I can't. It's insanity. They call me a nigger now. Yeah. And then I can deal with it. I don't mean I'll deal with it like that. I'll talk them down.
But it's not even that you couldn't. It's not even that you could hate them then. We accepted it. That was just life. That was just life, That's the way
Gollywog and things like that. But it used to sort of like, when you're a little kid, it hurts you because you just want to like, you want to be like them. Oh. You do, don't you?
No, it's true. It's absolutely true.
And what had happened, because even though my dad was involved in our life, i.e., you know, weekends, pictures, birthdays, week, Christmas, he was always there. But if, say, some white kid who was bigger than you was bullying you, you couldn't go to your dad and say, well, Dad, you know, and he'd go around and sort their dad out or something. That was left to Dad.
But Phil, I don't even think that would have happened anyway, because they're also being intimidated by a majority white thing, aren't they? You know, the black men. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? In Moss Side, it's different, innit? Because there's a big mix.
Yeah, because probably what would have happened to my dad had he gone round to someone's and like chinned them. Yeah. There might have been like a sort of a semi-lynching mob looking for him.
No, exactly. You don't know. He can't just be a lone man on his own. The police would definitely have been involved as well, and no doubt he would have been more in trouble than. Do you know what I mean? If he'd gone round, you know how they go. Because one of the classic things that they say is, "Oh, you weren't aggressive," or "You were aggressive." That's a marker, isn't it?
Yeah,
so if he goes round to sort out about his son, he's a wild Zulu.
Yeah, and that's how they probably would have seen him.
Yeah.
And then what happened is that the youth club, they had a couple of youth clubs down there. They had like Ancoats lads, and then they had like Holland Street Youth Club. But again, she'd be the only sort of mixed race lad there. I can't really, besides the Silver Girls and this other family called Applegates, there wasn't, and the Moseses. But they were seen like sisters. You didn't sort of like, you couldn't fancy them. It was sort of like...
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like incest, you know. No, it was.
No, I know what you mean. I felt like when I went in the Reno, it's a bit like, oh, they used to be brothers.
So what started happening is that Auntie June she's been around me from the day I was born, and she'll probably be there the day I die, hopefully, God willing. So my cousin Mike Rowell, he used to come and stay at ours when we lived in Miles Platting, and then he introduced me to St. Wilf's. So when I went to St. Wilf's, this was like, it wasn't sort of like the youth club that I was used to going to. There was a lot more brown faces, black faces, and even like there was a kid called Eddie Singh who could dance.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I remember. Yeah.
So for me, it was crazy coming from the environment.
Oh, I can't imagine that.
So I loved going to Hume. There was my friends, and especially like, you know, Jan, Rob West, God rest his soul. These were the people that I grew up with as a kid and who gave me courage, so that when I went back to my white area, them white boys weren't going to bully me no more, because my mates would fucking come and they could all fight. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, no, brilliant.
Do you know what I mean? And that's how it was.
Yeah.
But Mike Rowell, as I say, that my very first time that I ever ended up in Moss Side was the Monton House, and what we did, he said to his mum, Auntie Dot says I can stay at hers with Phil. And I said to my mum, Auntie Margaret says I can stay at Michael's tonight. So after St. fucking Wilf's, we went to this club called the Jolly Roger, which was in town, and I was like 14 and a half. But them days, they let you in clubs.
Yeah, we used to go to Genevieve.
Yeah, so from there, he said, oh, we can go to Moss Side. So I'm like, where do you mean? So he said, oh, this place called Monton House. Wow. Just wow. Mike Emerson was there when he walked in, looking all cool, was quite handsome. And, you know, I don't know what he was doing for a living in them days, I'm not quite sure. But he was cool. Yeah. And all them older mixed race boys, as I say, that for me, they made you feel very welcome, and so did the Jamaican guys, to be honest. I had a few skitty remarks a couple of times, you know, Two Nations and bullshit like that, but it didn't fucking mean nothing to me, you know what I mean?
I forgot about that saying Two Nations.
So that used to just ride over my head. Yeah. And then it must have been about 3 or 4 weeks later after that, after the sort of got that courage about, wow, I like this music and this scene, and the way guys dressed. I mean, you're talking about that. I was growing up in the era of, like, say, mods and skinheads and all that, but they were smart, don't get me wrong, but you went to Moss Side and you seen a black guy or an half-caste guy, as it was called in them days. It was double smart, you know, and so it made you want to dress like that. And consequently, when you see a lot of my generation, they still dress very smart. They're not into that, like, you know, they all wear black now, all the kids, don't they? Yeah. They have a black T-shirt on, 200 quid, black coat, 800 quid, and they think the dog's bollocks, you know, and it's not being sharp. Yeah. Is it at all? Yeah.
Did from that time, was it, I remember, are they called Angoras or something? Them with the 3 little buttons and the little collar. I remember black guys in them with moccasins.
That's right.
And really sharp pants, man.
Press properly.
Press with a crease that could kill you. Yeah. But I remember from them times, Phil, right? Put me right. Do you remember budgie jackets and, you know, with the different colour stripe up the side and the short jacket? Yeah.
People was flying. What it was is that they kind of looked to the fashion sense as the music was coming from America, that you looked to like how the black Americans was dressing.
No, it's true.
And you'd imitated that, what you're seeing, and put a bit of English style into it, you know. Yeah. Because I love Ben Sherman shirts and J-Tex and all that.
Ben Sherman's. Yeah. Was there a cafe near Paul Marsh's? Because I'm 5 years younger than you.
No. I remember the record shop because I used to go there, but mainly to get reggae tunes, 12 inches there, or, you know.
I've got like a vague memory, right, of near what's that? What was that? The big shop, Woolworths. Near Woolworths and Paul Marsh's.
No, that's Alec Road you're talking about.
Yeah, Alec Road, that's what I mean. Is there
There was a cafe, yeah, little Yogi Shine.
That's it. And there used to be like these guys, man, super fly outside. You know, like all like Shaft. Do you know, like they look like, you know, just Shaft hanging about, you know, on the street.
Yeah, because there'd be dope dealers or there'd be like, you know, super pimps, wouldn't
Yeah,
they?
no, exactly. You know, no, but I thought, man, you know, like, that was like a film scene,
And in the old days, guys used to always be wearing hats. They don't sort of, well, it's come back now, hasn't it? The little like handicap that everyone's wearing. But in the old days, they would, all different types of hats. The Shebeens in Moss Side as well, when it was lively, it was the place to be and the number one club to go to. It doesn't matter where you wanted to go, anywhere in England I'm talking about, is that it was the Reno. Do you know what I mean? They had a really good club in Liverpool called the Ebo Club.
Yeah, I remember
that. Was a top club. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But Manchester, you know, it was Moss Side, and the tunes was better in Manchester than Liverpool. Yeah. It's just that the birds was prettier in Liverpool.
Oh, you bastard!
No, but it's just the voices, you know, and they'd have about 10 fucking brothers, you know, so you had to be careful. You know?
Yeah. Liverpool love a big family, don't they? Yeah. Let's have 14 kids. Yeah. I remember that. The Ibo, am I remembering this right? That the Ibo was massive.
Yeah. It was cold. It was cold inside. A massive big room downstairs.
Yeah. So go on, tell us about your first night in the Reno.
The first night in the Reno, it's me, Mike Rao, Jan Willis, and Jan and Mike. There was both good dancers actually, and I just went in there and I just thought, fucking hell, why is everyone so cool? Because I felt like a div in comparison to how they was dressed, you know, like you talk about like mohair suits and mohair strides, you know, and all that, and you're thinking, fucking hell, I want a pair of them. And then you gradually learn to sort of be cool, do you know what I mean?
I do know exactly what you mean.
I was a people watcher, do you know what I mean? And if I had to dance with a girl, I like to dance, have a proper dance. They don't do it no more, you know, a close dance.
A wine.
Yeah. They're like they're having sex now when you see them doing it, when they're pissed, aren't they, in the club, you know, but it was done in a really nice way. And a girl would only dance with a guy if he could dance properly. They didn't want someone who was going to dance dirty, sensual dancing, but I say things have changed. And you'd always, when a certain tune come on, that girl would know that's your song, even if you wasn't having a thing with each other. But that's our tune that we danced to, so that's what you used to do.
So what year is it you first go in?
Wow. We're talking 70 in the Reno, 69, 70.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And even then they had white friends because, again, God rest his soul, Susie McGodden, you know, that he was one of them guys, he was more black than white. He was blacker than me, Susie.
He was super cool.
Cool guy, could dance, fucking fight.
Yeah, looked great, amazing clothes, great hair. Dead handsome.
The bastard.
I remember that. I've always wanted a flicky fringe, man.
But we spent a lot of time together, me, Mike and Jan, you know, in the Renos. I say that it was the tunes, really. Do you know what I mean? It's because, as I say, being brought up in Miles Platin, even though my mum loved music, you're only sort of listening to a certain type, like your Motown and some of your sort of like soft soul tunes. But then when you get to my side and you get to the Reno and they're playing like hardcore soul and you're going, fucking hell, man, this is proper music, you know, a bit like the film The Jerk. You've seen The Jerk, haven't you? Steve Martin.
Where he's waiting on the end of the street.
No, when he's waiting for the music and all that, and then he can't do it, can he? It's the black music, he's doing it's that, and then the white tune comes on and he's got the rhythm. That's what on my side, you kind of give a lot of mixed race people, I think, they pick up on that vibe and go, that's it, do you know what I mean? When you see a person in the Reno doing the two-step, they made it look cool. And then, they'd just be there, wouldn't they, just doing their own little thing, but it just looked cool, and you just watch them.
No, there'd be certain tunes, like the guys was too cool to dance, right, the brandy and that, but there'd be certain tunes that were just getting them, do you know what I mean? And even though, like you've just done, they're not moving a lot.
No,
but the moving.
Yes, they're alive. But I think that the smartest guys, I think, in them days for dressing, was definitely the Prairie Brothers. There was I mean, dead smart. Steve Adams, in his day...
Oh, no, Steve Adams.
Was a very smart dresser.
Yeah, no, true.
Bit over much on the gold, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Especially if you got the job centre.
Yeah.
But it was like, he was a nice guy when he was younger.
Yeah.
All the older ones, you know, like, you know, Billy Marble, top guy, Vinnie McNeil, God rest his soul, another top guy. These were the ones who all looked after me when I was younger. What
do you mean when you say looked after you? What do you mean?
That if you was getting any grief off anyone, because some of these older ones, they'd had that pathway to town, so they'd been to town. So when you was first going to town in my day, again, there was a colour bar being practised, so you could only get in certain clubs. Now, the older ones used to talk about a club called the Blue Note that was kind of like predominantly mixed race. I kind of missed that. My first sort of club going to town was a place called Top of the Town, then Roundtrees.
Oh, Roundtrees, I forgot about
it wasn't till the likes of sort of rum clubs like fucking Cloisters, Genevieve's, Brewsters, where you'd have this sort of like quite a few mixed race guys, you know, going in there.
Yeah, but they didn't have that vibe though. You know that vibe you were talking about before about in Reno? That vibe was particular to the Reno.
Yeah. You wasn't going to find it nowhere else at all, as I say. And there was, you know, there's little soul venues around the country. There's even one down London called the Roaring Twenties. But that was nowhere near on the party. It didn't have that ambience, you know. There's not many clubs where you're going to walk into where everyone kind of looks fucking cool. Even if you didn't like the big girl or the big guy, that big guy or big girl would look dead smart, be handsome or very pretty. And it was like, wow. It was like someone had took a slice out of a movie and gone, yeah, this is a movie we're doing. But it was real life.
I know exactly.
And all these characters was real. You know, and some of them was fucking dangerous when you think back. Some of them was fucking nutcases. I mean, there was some of the girls, you know, that you wouldn't fuck about with them, would you?
No,
you know what I mean?
No.
You know, Anne Proudfoot, she wasn't...
I knew you was going to say
that.
that.
You just couldn't, man.
No. I was terrified of her, man.
Nice girl, do you know what I mean? But wow.
No, she loved Tommy, you know, Tommy was her mate. It's used to, when she'd get drunk, she'd go, I hope you're taking care of him. And then I'd just be shitting myself for about 10 minutes till she went away. Because you don't know how to answer her either.
No.
You know, if you say, do you know what I mean? So I'd just be shitting myself.
And there was, I think what ruined the Reno, for me personally, there's a combination of things. What happened is, amongst the mixed race boys, we'll call them, the grafting boys, there was a fallout. I'm not going to mention no names. And what happened, it caused these huge divisions where it wasn't sort of like all these mixed race crew from Manchester. You ended up with areas, so you'd had to say Cheetham Hill, Moss Side. So that was one thing that kind of ruined the vibe. And then when heroin came on the scene, fucking hell.
Yeah.
It took that many people and good people. But what it was is no one had been educated about heroin. Yeah. No one really knew what it was, even if you was just having a two. You know, some people, perhaps naively at the time, they probably thought, oh, it's similar to having a weed, just that it fucks you up.
I was thinking about that this morning. We must have thought that.
Yeah, but it took a generation. Some survived and made it, thank God, but it took a lot along the way, sadly.
No, you're dead right. No, it did. It's like an avalanche, wasn't it?
Yeah, and
it was really weird.
And that vibe changed, and once sort of like the gun become readily available, it was sort of like, well, do you really want to go?
Yeah.
To Moss Side,
I remember.
And all that was left now, you kind of have this thing, don't you, like big people's soul night and all that, but it wasn't. I was going to big people's soul nights in the Reno when I was a kid because you respected your elders then. And I think the generations, it's changed with the younger people, you know. They don't realise, I don't think, and that's when, you know, when we're all dead and buried and they're looking back on social history and they read, you know, and see that the way was already paved for them. I mean, racism is still here, Linda, but not like to the degree when me and you was kids. There's many opportunities now for them, but
you're dead right.
But too many of them choose that ghetto boy lifestyle, you know, like I did when I was a young boy. I was what you call a proper rude boy. I mean, I lived in the night. I couldn't wait for the night time to come. And Paul was the same. Yeah. We'd get dressed up, you know.
No, I was the same. I'd sleep all day.
We'd get the last bus, you know, from my mum's, or walk it if it was broke, you know, looking to hustle, make a raise, you know. Yeah. And that was it, you know. But, you know, you change as you mature, you change, you know. And the bad things I've done in my life, because I have done bad things, I've had the karma and it's come back. So I just see it that I'm quits now with all the bad things that I've done in my life, you know what I mean? Even with women, you know. Yeah. I've loved all the women that I've been involved with, every single one of them, and especially them who've had my children. But I had a roving eye as a young, it took me a long time to mature and grow up, if you know what I mean. And I think it does for a lot of guys. There's not many that I can remember, say, who got married in the 20s, early 20s, and they're still with the missus. There's very few, isn't there? Yeah. So.
Do you think that's particular to our colour or even our class?
Again, I think it's, if I'm honest, what I think it is that if your stereotypes are, you know, that you're going to look up to in your role models, if it's this handsome guy he's got a missus and 3 kids at home, but he's got 3 women on the side. No, do you know what I'm saying?
No, nothing, because it's true. Yeah.
And you sort of think, well, that's normal. Yeah. It's so only as you develop, and then you realise, well, me sleeping with this person is causing hurt to this one, and by me sleeping with this woman, I might plant a seed there that was unplanned, you know. And you'd have all that, don't you? So it causes. It's a cultural thing, I would say, to a degree, you know, where they think it's cool, you know, like baby mother. Yeah. You know, one here, one there, one everywhere, you know, too girly, you know, and a lot of them, especially the good-looking boys, they was the worst ones.
Well, it'd be hard to keep saying no, though, as well. You know, if you're good-looking, and, you know, it's like flinging itself around. Do you know what I mean?
But I think that what happens when you're a young guy, if you get into too many sort of women just getting involved with you because of how your kipper looks, they're not knowing what's going on up there or in your heart, and that's what tends to happen. You just think, well, I can have any woman that I want, blah, blah, blah. And then what happens is that when you meet a woman who's questioning, well, why this and why that, you just think, well, who are you talking to? And you react violently, or you just go to the other woman's. Yeah. That's what they used to do. You know, there was some guys I knew when I was younger, they had keys to perhaps 3-4 gaffs that they could just, like, go. That was it. That was the life. You know, a lot of work, but of my generation that I grew up with, a lot of them did crooked things. They, you know, it's probably way in the past, and I won't mention any names of them, but, you know, they did crooked things. I know, because I was fucking there with them.
Doing the crooked things. Yeah. How many keys did you have at one time? Just the one?
One to my mother's, that's it.
Do you know that not knowing your head in your heart, what you just saying then? What was the question I was going to ask?
What's the reason, do you think, that you had all these multiple relationships?
Or not knowing your own head and your own heart. Do you think that's... Because that was, you know, part of being cool, right? Part of being cool is that you don't show the real you to anybody.
No, you're supposed to say that for the person you truly love and who you can trust with that.
Yeah, but you've been going around being cool for so long and not showing anybody. How do you show the person that you do love? That's a really hard thing to do. Or even to know that you love that person. Go on.
I think the only answer to that, Linda, is you have to look in the mirror, don't you, and say the things that you're saying to that particular bird, and look at yourself in the mirror and go, either, you know, you're telling the truth and it's honesty, or say to yourself, you lying bastard. Don't you? Do you know what I mean?
But I didn't know, for myself, I didn't know what was the truth or what I was lying about when I was younger.
But you don't, as I say, because you'd have it's all propaganda, isn't it, that we're fed, you know, for example, our man's supposed to behave, our woman's supposed to behave, what you've got to offer to society, you know, and don't forget, in them days when we was growing up, there was no such thing as these so-called laws about racism that have come into effect in the past few years. So someone could openly call you a nigger, and it could have like a profound effect on you, where you bury it away like a squirrel. You think, I'll drag that up sometime later, and that's what I think a lot of mixed race people tend to do. They'll pull out the race card, won't they, sometimes, and I think it causes conflict because of this. were brought up in a white culture. So have your black culture as well evenly balanced. There's a large proportion who haven't had that. There's some who have, where you've got like, a black African or a black Jamaican married a white woman and their offspring have had no problems whatsoever.
Yeah.
But there's others. But there's others where it's that like, you don't get it. Say, for example, with food and all that, the only time I would sort of eat black food, as I'll call it, i.e., rice and peas, goat, saltfish, all that, is if my mum was in a relationship with a black man at that particular time, and then them foods would be on offer. It's only when I started going more side myself, and obviously loads of little eateries to go to, and then you start eating it. But from a child, that's, English food.
Yeah.
Chip butties, English breakfast, dripping.
Yeah, dripping, man.
Yeah,
dripping.
Yeah. That's how it was brought. That's how it was brought
Cabbage
up.
and ribs meal
Yeah,
as well.
all that,
Yeah.
Because it was, a white mother, so she cooks like English food. That's what she'd been taught. She's not going to start going, well, like, I'll make you some fufu, and pepper fucking soup.
Yeah.
It's shit, know what I mean?
No, she's not.
But I mean, I actually love anything spicy. I can, like a vindaloo. I can just eat it. I like spicy food.
Phil, do you think that's caused us problems? What you're saying now?
Yeah, because I think that you've got to, when you've got two cultural backgrounds, you've got to have an equal input, irrespective of where you're living in the world. So let's say, for example, that my mum had gone to Nigeria, and I would have been born in Nigeria, and had that Nigerian culture, and now then I come back to the UK now, and then I'm thinking, what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah.
Because and why are they giving me like, a full English breakfast? What the fuck's that?
And it looks horrible.
Yeah,
I love full English breakfast, but it looks horrible, really.
But because I'm an Englishman, my skin's brown and ethnically, blood of Africa, it fucking runs through my body, but my culture's English. I can't never change that. I've got some African ways about me. Yeah,
no, there'd be some that would just bleep out anyway.
That are just there that you can't. The same as like, if you have a Jack Russell, it chases mice and fucking kills them and rats, doesn't it? So if you've got African blood in you, you're going to have some skill that's just been put there by DNA, by genetics, so.
But that's a weird thing then. So Miles Platten in Newton Heath, that's nowhere around it. So all that's black about you or African about you, you are necessarily having to hide it, aren't you? Without thinking.
Yeah, without thinking. But what happened, well, for both me, Paul, and I think the likes of John De Silva and a few other guys, we started to read sort of really heavy literature, like Huey P. Newton, Eldridge Cleaver, Soledad Brothers and stuff like that. So for a short time in my life, about 2 years, I kind of become quite militant and not anti-white, but anti-colonialism.
Yeah.
I hated it, but I took it too strong in my mind. I was sort of putting myself in like, well, because I felt empathy with what was going on in Black America. I felt that like we were suffering the same way. It's poles apart.
Yeah, you're right.
And it is.
Yeah.
So,
but I don't know about that. It's definitely poles apart physically as we look at it. But I don't know about in our hearts and minds if it's really poles apart that we don't suffer.
Yeah, I think when I say poles apart, don't forget, I know that when we were speaking on the phone the other day, and you said that you're descendants from directly from slaves, and I said to you, well, for all I know, my dad was from the west coast of Africa. I could have relatives that was from there.
Yeah.
But what you find in America, that people who are lighter skinned than me and you, less negroid than me and you, they call themselves like nigger. Yeah. Now, to me, right, I don't understand that whether it's been put there by slavery or whatever, if ethnically, right, you would have a mixed race heritage, right, that's it, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And they seem to want a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them want to just completely disown that white blood. So it contradicts my life, doesn't it? That I'm proud of my white blood as I'm proud of me black.
Yeah.
America.
But it doesn't matter whether you're proud or you're not proud. Yeah. That is what you are.
That's what I am. But what I'm saying is in America, they don't have that same feeling. And the slavery's caused that, I personally think. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? My father wasn't a slave and my grandfather wasn't before that. But prior to that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah, you don't know.
But I'm not carrying that stigma. Even though, I love anything to do with slavery and films like that. I really do. I don't think the British experience is totally different. And it's about racism for the likes of me and you, institutionalised racism, where there's guys I know now that if they was young men now, they would have achieved great things, but
I agree with you.
But they grew up in an era where it's like you wanted to sort of like be a soldier, be a copper, be a politician, be a businessman. Them opportunities wasn't there for you.
Impossible. People would have laughed in your face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You'd laugh in your face.
Or say you're a traitor.
Oh, that's another one.
Yeah, but if you want to fight the law, you've got to, we're all in the belly of the beast, so what you have to do, you have to become part of the beast in order to change things.
I totally agree with
you. Yeah, you can't just go, well, oh, you bastards, you bastards, you bastards. Like you say, if you get nicked nowadays, right? And I was nicked about 3 years ago now, so over in the police station, it doesn't matter what it was over, so it gets there, First of all, it's an Asian young guy, he's a charge thing. The next thing, sergeant comes out, it's a mixed race bird, so I can be like it there going all that, you're fucking racist, you're this, you're like...
Yeah, because they're there.
Yeah, but when I was a kid, I got nicked for just because of the colour of my skin. Not just me, other kids as well. And before they had the sus law, they had this other very, very old law that they still use. My first ever criminal charge was for being outside New Brown Street, where they used to have all the boutiques.
Oh, yeah.
And the charge was called loitering with intent. That's because I'm there looking at the
Well, that's the early sus law, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's
before sus.
Yeah, because you're suspicious of.
Yeah, that person thinks that me, because I'm brown, that I'm going to like smash that window to pieces, jump in, nick a shirt, and somehow get out of town undetected. When I was dressed up anyway, I'd been in the club, do you know what I mean? So,
but Phil, what you're saying's got really massive ramifications, because if they think that, we must think that as well. We know they think that.
Well, that's
so do we act accordingly to what they think?
Well,
which way round is it?
Well, that's what happened. Is we started to get them very disrespectful towards the police, and the doorman and that, this policy of, well, you're not getting in because of, your hair, your afro. They'd say it was a fire hazard.
I know, I've heard this a few times.
So all that happened is a few doormen just got seriously taken care of, and then that colour bar altered, and you'd sort of go to clubs now, and then you'd see like people you grew up and you respected. So you'd see Ronnie Smart, Jimmy Hewitt, Johnny Toto, Alan Toto, Cardiff Pete. These would all be on the door in town. So that race thing, then it didn't matter, and it was dead fair with you. Do you know what I mean? If you got out of hand, they fucking take care of it, but there was fair with you. It wasn't like you can't come in, which was, when you're a young kid. So, if you were a bird and then you're in the queue because you had to queue.
It's embarrassing if nothing else, isn't it? Like if you were the bird, like you're saying, you're getting a full on showing up, aren't you? Yeah.
And in my era, all the mixed race people, and there was no phones, don't forget, because if you had a house phone, you was posh.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
But because we'd all sort of went to the same places, is that if there was a party, because we tended to have a lot of parties, we'd just all go, and it'd be predominantly mixed race. There was white people there, loads, especially girls. But, you'd have, as I say, Eddie Singh. I don't know what's happened to him, Eddie, but he used to be there, and he was a fun. I mean, he wore Doc Martens and everything, and a fucking turban.
That style, man.
No, but he was cool.
Because Doc Martens was skinheads then,
right,
so to wear a turban and Doc Martens was proper
So when you're looking at that, it belies the things you're reading in the papers, and it's all bollocks about the skinheads anyway. I never... But they used to call it Paki bashing. I never remembered any Pakistani getting beat up by skinheads, me personally. Any skinhead I knew I got on with.
Yeah.
Do you know? It's,
because they just wanted to be cool in their own way.
Yeah, you had like the Sloane Street Skins. All top lads, the majority of them was white. They had a couple of mixed race lads, but it was predominantly white lads. They used to go for a drink with Titch and this other guy called Paddy. There's the least racist people you ever fucking meet. But up in Moss Side, why are you going to be racist when you're going to have like black mates and mixed race mates?
But they're just looking for their own identity at that time as well, because it is as bad then to be, well, it still is, working class. There's colour, there's institutional racism, but there's institutional classism as well.
Yeah, and the Irish was definitely there with the black and the mixed race people of this world in that era, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, just the fact that we lived in rooms up until me being 4 or 5 years of age. Is saying something, you know. So if you said that to someone now, irrespective of the colour, well, like, you know, you've got to go and live in rooms and share a house with maybe 3, 4 families.
Exactly, and cook on the landing. Yeah, would be on
and consequently, then people you lived in the houses with, you know, they become your auntie. Auntie Jude, even though it's not my blood, in my heart, she is 1,000% my family to me. Same as Susie and Mandy and Tommy was, you know, that when there was bad things going on in my life and you need people to back you up, Tommy was always one of them, you know, 1,000% fucking solid in his heart. And your Tom was as well. Sarge, Aggie, in his day, you know, he was a loyal guy.
Who's Aggie?
Paul.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's young Aggie. I'm big
Aggie. From Big Steak and Little Steak.
You know what I mean? But prior to that, you know, that nickname, my other nickname at Holland Street, the one that I got expelled out of as well, they called me Jacko. Now, why do you think they called me Jacko?
Michael Jackson.
No, named after the sweet Blackjack.
Oh,
shorten into Jacko. Yeah, I mean, and it's like, what do you do? Do a slap at anyone who wants to...
I can't fucking imagine it, really, because I'm from Moss Side. Yeah, so in Moss Side, do you know what I mean?
I say that's why it was so strange, because I didn't know when I was getting called a nigger and a coon, you know, of little white kids. I'm not saying it was like big men calling me, because it wasn't. It was little kids.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, what's going on here? You don't even know what it means. That's how daft it is, but it hurts, you know. The same as getting called, you know, big nose, big fucking ears, specky, you ginger-haired cunt, you spotty bastard, you know.
Yeah, you fat cunt.
Yeah, kids are evil, aren't they? No, if you're different, they latch onto it, and obviously, you know, if you was brown, you stood out. And
you can't come away from it. No, do you know what I mean? Like, if you're fat, you can lose weight. If you, do you know what I mean?
Can't change the colour of your skin. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Not that I'd want to do, to be honest, because, you know, I've seen some of my old white mates. Fucking hell, I can't believe they're the same age as me. No, I can't. I mean,
I know what you're saying.
I go, wow, you know, because you know, I'm at that age group now where people are, you know, they're popping the club for one reason or another.
Or getting really ill.
Or getting really ill, you know, either too much on the drugs, too much on the alcohol, and it catches up with them. You know, I've tended to think, well, as I say, that I've met loads of them. I'll tell you an incident. There was this family called the Kellys. Colin Kelly, it was called in particular. And they used to always be Sambo, you know, and all that. And as I say, that you let it go on and go on. So this night, many, many years down the line, I'm a grown-up man. So I'm out with this mad fucking gangster firm, and we've gone into this pub for 8 teas. He's seen me. So, fucking hell, he's calling me. All right, Paul, Mark, got it. I said, all right, Col, it's Phil. Because what had happened, he'd forgotten, and I just sat down with him, skinned up, and just said, it's right, mate, forget it. It's fucking hell.
Right, so he thought it was on top.
Yeah.
Or potentially on top.
Yeah, whereas for me, as I say, it's forget about it. You know, there's nothing you can do about it whatsoever at all. You know, I used to work... But you know Desmond, don't you? Desmond Richardson.
Yeah.
Used to work with, I used to work with Desmond and Big Tex, God rest his soul. And we used to do stage security it was in the punk era. And we used to work for this guy called Alan Wise. So we used to go up and down the country and all that. But so you don't have to put it on the thing if you don't want to. So we're in Bradford at St George's Hall. So it's all punks and all that. So Tex is on the rear door, and me and Desi are on the stage. Anyway, you know, I used to goz and all that.
Oh no!
He's gone fucking man. I've never seen a man get fucking picked up so quick like that. He fucking picks him up out of the fucking audience and fucking dragged Desi. Yeah.
To be spit on, but that's a proper insult to be spat on.
I know. Okay.
It's proper nasty, man.
Yeah. But I'd say all them young black guys that I grew up with in Moss Side, you know, I never felt any animosity whatsoever at all from them. You know, there was just sound as a pound of me, all of them. And even there was a lot of white guys when they actually fucking think who used to go there. You probably won't remember Joey Atkinson and Alan Atkinson.
I know the name.
They was always in Moss Side with us. But we used to get up to all kinds. My God. As I say, we just lived for the night. You know, the cover of darkness, you know.
The cover of darkness.
No, it enabled you to get some, like,
criminal activities going on.
Golden rice, dumpling, and a nutriment.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what was the another one. There's a nutriment. There's another one like a malt something.
Oh God, that's strong in the bottle.
Little brown bottle.
Yeah. Does you good.
Yeah, and a nutriment.
And the times I've been in the Reno, you know, like say Christmas Eve, I had it a couple of times with Winnie. So you go, you know, you dress to kill proper, you know, that thing out of place.
Yeah.
Within 5 minutes of being in, once you've managed to get down the stairs and get in, you're like that. Fucking sweat is just pouring on you. And what it is, you just think, wow, I'm glad that everyone knows now I've been here Christmas Eve. Just fucking nodding to everyone.
You had to get in on Christmas Eve.
And if you could skin up like that, like that, just skin it up.
And it'd be just a waste of time about the bar. Getting to the bar is just a fucking waste of time, innit?
Yeah, Lassie always used to make me laugh. He never ever charged me, Lassie, but if we come like we win it, Phil, pound for life.
No, don't.
Give me pound.
He used to do the same to me. Tom always paid for me, never for himself. But it's a bit of a showing up that when am I ever going to be on the in like this? Do you know what I mean? Or Mandy and Susie never paid in. I always paid in. Yeah.
I remember Linda Juando as well. What's the other one? Julie Juando from Being Young in the Reno, who I thought was nice. And she was lovely, I thought, very stylish and classy. Diane.
A Bonson.
Yeah, classy lady.
Absolutely. She's proper like film star.
Yeah, she just carried herself really
absolutely.
Well. Brennan's sister was nice. Brendan was nice when he was young. We'll be watching David.
There's a picture. I've got a picture of him, and he's proper smooth.
Oh, the debonair one.
Like the Isley Brothers. Like the whole of the Isley Brothers.
It reminds me of a brown Errol Flynn in it.
Absolutely.
That is nice, Dave. Though, top guy. Yeah.
Always with his shirt off. There's loads of pictures in Marcus's album with Brennan with his top off.
Marcus is funny as well.
Yeah.
He makes me laugh.
He was a handsome guy.
Yeah, I remember Marcus really well.
Yeah.
Well, still see him, when you have these little social gatherings, most of the time, sadly, it's funerals, and you sort of, you still see him. Stan Finney still looks well, doesn't he, really, for his age?
He looks amazing for his age, and considering what's happened as well, bringing himself back to health. It's astonishing.
And it must be something to do with the skin, the mixing of the bloods, because I remember I went to Barry George's 65th birthday. So there's this guy, and I'm looking at him, So I've gone over to him and said, all right. I said, are you in a relation to Billy Marble? He went, I am fucking Billy Marble. No, he looked about 50 years of age. I thought, oh, wow. I said, wow, so you look really, really well.
Yeah. Do you know who I thought looked really well the other day? Melvin. Man, he looked
about
40.
Yeah, top lad Melvin I died. Honest to God.
Yeah.
He's he's a generation younger than me, but of his generation, for me, he's the number one boy out of that generation. For all in Manchester, I'm saying, my personal opinion about him, I've got a lot of respect for him. He's a top guy.
Yeah. Oh, and Jason Culpepper, he looked about 25. Yeah, what the hell? Yeah, what have you done? Sold your soul to the devil.
Melvin still trains, he eats, looks after himself, you know what I mean, as well.
No, you've got to. Tell us your last memory in the Reno, Phil.
The last
time you went in the Reno.
My God. The last time I was in the Reno, was with a girl called Kim Richards, who's got my daughter Shaka, who I've told you about. And that would have been, wow. We're talking now 28 years ago, which is a long time, isn't it?
I can't calculate that. When's that? 1980?
Is that it? The 80s, yeah. But by then the last time I went in, it had lost that vibe. You could tell by looking at the people, it was fucking about with things, it was like, guys was hustling, selling weed, in big amounts in them days.
Yeah.
But they had raging fucking habits. It sort of that was the ticket to, I can have a dabble at this, and you'd go in there and it's like, once you've smelled heroin being smoked, you'll never, ever, ever forget that smell.
It smells like sick to me.
Yeah, and that's what it smelled like in the Reno, it started to get that. It had its own smell anyway. You know, I think the mixture of like sweat of like so many different people mixed with like, you know, the weed.
And the cellar.
And the cellar, alcohol.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Bits of blood.
Joando mentioned this, but I don't remember the smell. He said it had a real specific smell.
Yeah, it had you know, if you fell asleep in the Reno when you started to come round, you'd know, fucking hell, that smeller, I'm in the Reno. You know, like shebeens, certain shebeens
have a certain
smell. And don't forget, it was in the cellar, don't forget. Do you know what I mean? So you would have had like a little bit of rising
a bit of damp
as well coming in, but you know, it didn't matter, you didn't care about that, really, to be honest.
That's not in my head at all.
Yeah, that's what it was like. But it was always, the coolest ones, there was always down at that end and the sides. Then we wasn't too sure. They seemed to be like near the door. And it was murder with the toilet though, man. You know, some nights, you know, weren't it? You know, if you wanted to piss or something, fucking hell, and you know, got 10 deep waiting to get in.
Oh no, absolutely. And especially as a girl though.
Yeah.
Especially as a girl, because it's just the one toilet.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of bad fights in that Reno though, you know.
Have you?
Oh God. There's some bad ones. You know, strangers coming and thinking of the flavour and just come unstuck. Really unstuck.
What, coming down deliberately to fight?
No, I think just coming down thinking, they can do whatever they want to do type of thing. And then pick on someone and not realising, well, mate, everyone in this club is like...
He's on their side.
He's on their side,
Yeah.
Unfortunately. For you,
Yeah.
You know. I remember like Vinnie Ross punching the ceiling quite a few times. It's funny. I seen him not so long ago. Vinny, again, looks really well. Must be about 63, 64 now. But say all the old ones that I remember, I don't know what's happened to the family, like Vinnie McNeil, Kenny McNeil, who said to you.
Yeah. What do you mean you don't know what's happened to the family?
I don't know if they had kids or so on and so on. I mean, I think Vinny committed a suicide, but he was a nice guy, Vinny. He was Kenny's older brother.
Yeah. And
there was a sister as well. I can't think of the sister's name.
I didn't know there was a sister.
Yeah, there's a sister as well. I think it might be Loretto. I can't remember fully. But Milton was always in the Reno, Rob West. And there's a few of the West brothers, Mikey West, Sammy West, and there's another guy, another one of them, we can't think. And obviously Tony Cole.
Yeah. I always put him and Paul Collade together.
He's passed away, hasn't he, Paul?
Yeah.
Collade.
Yeah.
He was a nice guy, but it's got a big prison sentence, and I don't think he was quite the same, you know, like when he come home, because I seen him when he come home, went to his funeral, Paul's.
Yeah. Yeah, all the cool people stood that, Yeah, and then there'd be Frankenchips on your left as you look up, wouldn't there?
Yeah. And Frank was cool though, he didn't actually wear some nice clothes. And he was the first brown or black person I ever seen with a Rolls Royce.
Oh yeah.
It was Frank Prada. Which is cool, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. No, absolutely. With a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
But the Reno, I think that to capture that spirit again, you actually need the people who's alive, who went in there to have it. You know, like, I know they have a few different Reno things and all that, but when I go to them, because I was actually there, I don't know some of these people, and I think, well...
That's what I tried to do with the Christmas party. You should have come, was just to have us.
Yeah.
It was just us, and I was really strict about it, you know, did it
private. Yeah, Albert McCauley, he was
he was there.
Albert, I like Albert.
Yeah. But you couldn't create it again, because it's an era. It's an era, and it was part of our time. It's stuck in our time as well, isn't it?
And what happened is, in our era, there was blades and that, and people did get cut and stabbed, but no one got shot. No one knew what heroin was, and no one knew what cocaine was, and they didn't really have whiz. They had like Black Bombers and Purple Hearts in terms of drugs. That was kind of it. So when you went out and you stayed up all night, it was on a natural
vibe. Just because you was having a good time, the music was great, and you didn't want to go home.
That's it.
And we didn't really drink either, really.
No.
I used to drink about 2-3 special brews, and I'd be pretty
a weed, and the way you smoke weed. Then when I was younger, you buy it. I can remember buying a 10 bob weed. Yeah. Right, so you bought a 10 bob weed, and that would last you all night, and you'd share the joint. You'd have like 2 and pass. That's how you.
Yeah, in our innocence, and then you'd just be mash up, right? You'd either go under. Sometimes I'd just go under, man, become super paranoid, or else just get really funny and really bad and cheeky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like anything anybody said, you'd just be on it, man. You don't like to.
But I've been in the Reno a couple of times, and it has been raided by the police.
No, definitely.
But you'd always know it's
or running out the back door.
Yeah, when the lights go on early, and you think,
the for.
You got any weed on you?
That's and it'd be horrible. And the lights went on, it'd be horrible because it now all looks totally different. Yeah. All that kind of cool and vibe is gone.
Any faults you can see, and they're like that big pimple. You can see that.
And your hair's fucked because of the heat and the sweat. So the Carmen Rollers now is just fucked. It's just turned into a frizz. Yeah.
When I was young, though, I never had the type of afro I wanted. Mine was like loose, like a big fucking dandelion, but I didn't care. I just grew it anyway.
Yeah, no, exactly, man. It had to be done.
My hair was more like Tony Cole's type of hair.
Yeah.
Where you had the others, like Ozzy, like tight Paul Calais, they had that nice.
You wanted. No, I like the loose afros. Yeah. Marcus had a top afro, man. Yeah. Tony Cole had a super top afro.
Yeah. And Joey Jasper, man, fucking hell, Joey.
Yeah. Mandy had a top afro.
Yeah.
Yeah, proper
there's a photo of me somewhere with me and Mandy at her house with the big afro.
Yeah. I was looking at pictures in Mandy, I was like, Mandy, your afro was top, man. Yeah. Mine was dead thin. Yeah. I've got thin hair, so it was dead like see-through.
It's gone thin now and grey. Yeah. But I'm not bothered. Vanity goes, I think, once you get to a certain age.
About 50.
Yeah. It's downhill.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to go to the gym.
But you know what, though? You get more in touch with yourself.
Yeah.
When you're not having to be like, in a girl's case, pretty or attractive or whatever, and you realise the game's over in that thing, you get more in touch with yourself.
You're not going out into the theatre, are you?
Yeah, exactly, that's the world. That's a great word, the theatre. And that's a great word about the Reno as well, because it was a theatre as well.
Yeah.
There's a great line in Goodfellas towards, I don't even know what the line is, towards the end of Goodfellas, right, he's going on about, he's now working in some shit job, like as a postman or something. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And you really feel sorry for him, like, no, you can't just be a shit postman. Yeah. But I feel like that about the Reno. When people say, I can't do a video memoir because I'm working, it's like, no, you can't be at work. You've got to be cool, man.
Because that's what happens. You're forced into that, where it's that, like, you can't, if you're going to commit crime, you can only do it you've got to have a goal. And if you just think, well, I'm going to be a career criminal, what happens? You're going to get nicked. All your money's going to get spent. Yeah, you just spend it stupid anyway. You don't do anything good. You get into partying every night. It flitters away. And you don't think when you're young, unless you've had guidance, you don't have the same respect for money. You spend it willy-nilly. But this morning I was thinking about that. We didn't, this sounds more victimy than it is. We didn't have guidance because we'd never happened before. To be mixed race, like there's loads in Liverpool or whatever, but of our era in Manchester, we're kind of the first en masse loads of us, right? So we didn't have guidance because there's no fucking guidance to give. No. How do you guide something you've never seen before? Do you know what I mean? I think the authorities found it difficult because there was still of the mindset that because they're part savages, are they going to conform, so to speak? Do you know what I mean? I think that was in our home life as well. Yeah. I think that intrinsically, home life plays a huge part. Of course, it does. Yeah, I think intrinsically, I don't mean anything against any of our mums, but that they was also racist. Just from not they weren't like. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Do you know, they're part of
they probably was
white life.
they probably was unwittingly, because all they're doing, don't forget, they're being honest to their culture. So when they want to dress you up so that you look like, say, the pretty white girl next door or the handsome young white boy next door, because they're living in a white world and was brought up in a white world where I think more so now that, you know, white girls who are having babies to either to a mixed race or a black person, is that they're a bit more aware. There's a lot more information out there on the internet. But as you say, that when we was growing up, there was nothing. You was just deemed that you was black, and that didn't matter that your mother was white. You was still.
Well, we was half caste, weren't we? Well, when we was little,
half caste.
I think that's a modern thing past the 2000s. The thing that we're black. I think. When we were little, when I was little, I was half caste.
Yeah, I was.
The whole world seen me as half caste.
Yeah.
Which in some ways was worse than being black. Do you know what I mean? Like, we go,
because in the actual word itself, isn't it, half caste, so that half of you is good, and this caste thing is that this is impure. Do you know what I'm saying? So it can't mean. So what they're doing is they're saying that the white blood that's the good thing, and anything else that's added to it is not completely pure.
I know what you're saying. That's the real meaning of the word.
Yeah, I know it is.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas mixed race, I still like mixed race is better, but when we say mixed race, where do we stop? So if you get a person who's Chinese and he or she has a relationship with a white person, is that a mixed race person as well?
But technically, of course it is.
Yeah. But so then.
But it's a different experience.
So if you don't see me and I put a mixed race, you don't know what mixture I am. But if I was to say to you, I'm a Creole, in your head you might think, there's Negro blood there.
Yeah, I think you were French Negro.
Yeah.
Or from Louisiana.
Yeah, it sounds a bit more exotic, and, you know, it's got a nicer connotation to it than mixed race.
You know exactly that you're fucking either half Jamaican and half white.
I know what you're saying, but all it is, in my mind, I just relate it to colonialism. The same way that they had it in India, in their caste system. And it's like the white establishment sort of saying to me, this is the label I'm giving you. You don't have to give me a label, I'll pick my own. That's what I'm sort of getting at. I understand that common language was half caste. But now they've changed it without asking anybody.
No, exactly. And
we're called mixed race now. But as I said to you, what do you do when we start where does it stop mixed race?
But something about that film made me feel lost. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to explain this. Something about not being half caste. To me, it's just an innocent word. It doesn't mean anything to do with colonialism. I know it does technically. I'm not stupid, right? But to me, it was just like Linda Brogan. Yeah, it was just our word. When I suddenly became mixed race, or before we became mixed race, we became black in the arts world, right? Yeah. Where I've.
But you can go back, can't you, and look at old movies, old documentaries, and you can see these people who are obviously, you know, especially in New Orleans, who are obviously like of mixed race heritage, yet they're called black Negroes. You know, and they're not, you know, what's she called? Dandridge. Beautiful woman. Diana Dandridge, was it?
I know who you mean.
Yeah, very, very fair skin, but found it difficult for a career to progress in the States because of the racism that, you know, it's obviously, it's deep rooted, you know, it was built on racism, and until they address it there in the States, it won't get resolved. Worse things will happen there, and especially with fucking Looney Trump in charge. He was an out-and-out racist. As I say, for me, again, to get back to this half caste thing, for me, it's just the same as that, like, our white people accepted the term to use nigger, what was derogatory. As me personally, now at my age that I am now, I'm not talking about when I was a kid, but as I feel now, that I still think half caste is derogatory. He's trying to say to me that I'm only half of your system.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean?
But to me, it's just a description of me because that's what was said. That was what it was.
Yeah.
All of my life till I was about 35.
Yeah, for that period in time. So what I'm saying is that we have to evolve, don't we? Again, mixed race is better than, to me personally, it's better than half caste, but it's still not saying what you are, is it? Do you know what I mean? Because if I'm mixed race, so I'm sort of Anglo-Irish mixed with Nigerian and probably a little bit of Arab blood there as well. And you're West Indian mixed with Irish, but in the West Indian side, there's other bloods there. So how do we determine then?
Yeah, because my dad's mum is my colour.
So there you go.
Yeah, and probably lighter than I am with straighter hair.
So it's then what bloods was put in there. Is it European blood, i.e. is it Spanish, Dutch, German? You know, because it was all carved up, weren't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could even have a bit of Chinese blood, a bit of coolie blood, you know, because all these mingles are there. So we have to have a better, for me, I'm saying in the future, we need a better word than mixed race, because it's too wide a scope, isn't it? You know, everyone's mixed race. And we might as well say,
no, but that's true though as well though. That's a good thing though. That because in our time when we was born, like I think I'm trying to say, nobody'd seen it before en masse.
No.
You know, wild white women as they seen it, or however they seen it, running off with, you know, like crazy black men. It's like, oh my God, what's happening to... Can you imagine how they really thought about that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it'd be like aliens, wouldn't it? It'd be like a load of aliens arriving on a spaceship now.
That's what it would be.
And loads of white women, you know, going, oh, I'm going to have a baby soon. It'd be like, oh!
Yeah, well, it's now... No one's bothered.
No, exactly.
Whatsoever.
No, exactly.
You still got your hardcore who go, well, what we used to call John Bull.
Yeah.
There's still John Bull is still here, you know,
but they'll die out, won't they? They'll die out with their
successive generations, yeah. But it takes time, in order that, you know, society evolves. The old way of thinking, they have to go. And it doesn't matter what your race is, what your sexuality is, you know. All them things, it doesn't matter. It's about what you contribute to society.
Absolutely, but I'm really interested in the project and in like my mind of where it is. We lived our life in a different time, and I'm really interested in us looking honestly at that time. Let me just tell you something.
It's I collect loads of films and put them on hard drive. So do you ever remember Love Thy Neighbour?
Yeah, of course.
So I played it back not so long ago to one of my grandkids, and they're there watching it like that, and I said,
you need not.
Yeah, that's how it was.
No, exactly.
So it's for them to understand that they'd be saying, why ain't someone getting the police? You know,
no, exactly.
Because things have changed so much, and I think that what we have to do it has to be explained to them. Well, this is how it was. This is how it is, and here's how we'd like it to be. You know, like it's a three-pronged thing, isn't it? Really. Because it's that you're going to get all different people, and they're going to give you know, like you've had my tale about my life, and there will be similarities with other mixed race people, but some will have had it cushy, and some have had it cushy. But I don't think for the majority, even if they've had you've had mum and dad, and then you go out into the big wild world then, and you're going into the workplace, and you start to hear the little skits and all that, and jokes told about your race, and they've just had to sort of get on with it. Sometimes you just have to think, fuck it, here's the direction I want in my life, and I'm going there, and no one's going to stop me, because if people don't do that, you wouldn't be where you are if you've not thought in your head, in the back of your mind, well, fuck all this shit, here's what I want to do, and nothing is going to hold me back.
No, exactly.
And that's what people have
and
to do.
part of that journey for me is doing this. It's like, let me fucking really look in the mirror and you help me to do that, and me help you to do that.
Yeah.
That was then. Certain fucking things really did happen. I didn't arrive here.
Yeah, no.
Do you know what I mean? You had fully fucking formed.
It wasn't sort of like, what it is we're actually a product of a society that was changing or was unwilling to change.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And what's happened, we've forced society to change, and laws have had to be changed now. So that if I go into a pub and someone wants to say to me, you black bastard, what are you doing in here? I can get on the phone, got this on film, officer, he's going to get arrested. End of. When I was 15, if I would have phoned the police and says, yeah, mate, someone's calling me a nigger, who said, get off the phone, you black bastard.
But all of that film has had to have affected us. It affected how we thought, what we was entitled to in life.
Yeah, if it's not affected you, then you're not being honest.
Yeah, exactly.
None of them's being honest, I don't think, because they say for all them who took the criminal path, that with an equal opportunity in the era that they was born, they would have been doing something else. I think many of them would have been very successful, i.e. Frank Pereira would have been perhaps a multi-millionaire had he chose, the legitimate role, and the doors was open for him.
No, exactly,
to do that.
Exactly, because whether he was doing whatever he was doing to make money, he was still a businessman.
It's business, yeah. Everything's got, the books have got to be right, the product's got to
and
be.
all the different people who'd been on video going, you know, that they could paint, they could, do you know what I mean? Like sing, they could whatever. Yeah. All them doors were not
they
open
got shut
to
before they just stopped us to have a little wee break and make a brew. I was the only boy in the history of my school at Moston Brook, by the way, who got 11 out of 10, and it was for English literature homework. Now, bear in mind that there was only me, Paul A.O., and my brother Paul. So that, again, at that time, because I was only 13, was a remarkable achievement. The thing that pulled me away, paradoxically, was Moss Side.
Yeah.
The teachers wanted me to be educated. Once I'd had a taste of Moss Side, I felt I belonged there and not in the...
It's my story too.
Yeah, and not in the classroom.
That's my story too.
You know, so that's what happened.
Yeah.
And then, you know, my love of life, married at 17, you know, 3 kids by the time I'm 20.
Wow.
And I went for the sort of straight life, and I want to work. We had it for almost 13 years, and things just went pear-shaped, like they do in everyone's life, you know. Relationships can't last forever, but love can. You can love and respect someone forever, but you can't always work things out. As you grow, you change. Do you know what I mean? And I say, at 17, getting married, I wouldn't advise anyone to get married at 17. 40 at least. Taste the world, decide, I can put up with this, or I can't put up with that. Choose. And if there's nothing out there for you, live by your fucking self then.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's it, innit?
Yeah.
Can we have a break for the brew?
Of course you can.
I hope I've not burnt your ears too much.